talking will be a little ahead. So the page will be a little behind our words, just so you know.
Okay.
So I'm going to take people a minute. And now I am going to, let's see here. I'm going to stop sharing just for the sake of we're in our meeting. And I'm going to adjust this a little bit. Okay, let's see. Looking up on the page here. So, aha, it's coming up. Okay. Okay.
Ah, okay.
See us? All right.
Yes,
We are
yes.
here. So we'll give people a couple of minutes. I'm going to send out a reminder to everyone that we're starting. Oops. Let's here. Okay. Oh, okay. I thought it would tag you automatically. Well, I'm going to post it, get people excited. All right. And then.
I'm excited.
Right? I think this is fun. I think this is great because it's gonna I don't know, I think it's gonna help us get more and more engaged on things. And I see you said hi everyone, fantastic. And we have Maria Catalina Murcia Powell is watching. So that's great.
Hey, Maria Catalina.
All right. And so we'll give it a couple minutes and then we can get started. But okay.
I'll tell you what, we had the most beautiful September day here. It was sunny. It wasn't too hot. It was just so beautiful. And it just was like, yes, I need to be outside. I need to be doing this forest therapy stuff.
You need to live it. That's right. That's great. Yeah, today it's been beautiful fall weather the past couple of days, and we're getting the last of our tomatoes. So today I did a harvest of tomatoes and we're roasting all those good things. So yeah, it's good stuff. Good stuff.
That's nice. I have a bunch of spaghetti squash. I need to figure out how you know when they're ready. Right. I don't know if the little stems turn brown. I don't know.
I don't know either. Yeah. I think that aren't there some squash where you knock them and it sounds kind of hollow, but I don't know if that's like when it's on the vine and all that. So funny. And I will say we actually got pumpkins this year. So yes, we have 2 giant orange, beautiful pumpkins that we're looking forward to making into jack-o'-lanterns. So yeah.
Yeah. Catalina says it's 95 degrees in Houston right now. Oh my
wow.
God.
I'm glad I'm not there. I'm sure it's beautiful.
I will keep my 72 degrees and sunny. That's what I
that is the perfect weather. Absolutely. And so thank you for Maria for letting us know where you're from. So those who are joining, please feel free to let us know where you're coming from, where you're watching from. We are happy to hear from you. And as we go through today, we would love to hear questions that you might have too. So, all right, just another minute or so, 1 minute actually, and then we can get started.
Hey, hi, Julie.
Great, Julie. I'm glad you're able to make it. That's so good.
You know, what's cool is Maria Catalina is one of my forest therapy practitioners.
Oh, fantastic. So she'll have informed questions.
She will.
But no pressure, Maria, no pressure. Oh, wow. I hope everyone is doing well today. Let's see. Oh, hi, Dorina. Oh, Dorina's on.
Yay.
So glad to see
Dorina, we
you.
know she's from North Carolina. What's the weather in North Carolina right now, Dorina? You have to give people a moment for it to catch up.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a little bit. So just so everyone knows, so it's 6 o'clock. So we're going to get started. And just to let everyone know, so LuAnn and I are, through the magic of Zoom, are here together to do our session, and through the magic of Facebook, we're able to share that with everyone. So just so you know, there's a little bit of a delay between the two tools. So if it takes us a moment to answer questions or to see your comments, please bear with us. But let's get started. So thank you, everyone, for joining us on our first Follow Our Passions session. Thank you, LuAnn, so much for being our very first guest on this. We wanted to really reach out to members of our community and find out from them what really drives them. What are the things that they love, and how are those things they use as a part of the various certifications that they have. So that this is our first. We have several scheduled through October, and there are more coming after that. So stay tuned for that. Really, this is really an opportunity for us to share and for you all hopefully be inspired by the things that we all love. So with that, LuAnn, I know many people are know you as a fantastic teacher and friend. But if you could just give us a kind of a quick overview of you, where you are, and just let us know a little bit about you.
Well, sure. So for those of you who don't know me, my name's LuAnn Cibik, and I am celebrating 20 years in my business of inner harmony this month. It was 20 years ago in September that I began my feng shui and space clearing business. And it was after my certification with Denise in interior alignment. And then over the years, I became a master teacher for interior alignment. And then I also became a soul coaching practitioner and later a soul coaching trainer. And then let's just say pretty much I've taken every certification Denise has offered after that. So you might call me one of the biggest Denise Lynn fans out there. I know you're all in competition. You're all in competition for this, but I've been not only a fan, but somebody who has so benefited from taking these programs, not just because I used them in my life, but they became my new career. And what I loved about when Denise certified me in all these different programs and certified everybody in them is that she would always say, take this information and use it with your own gifts and talents, right? She didn't expect anybody to be a little mini Denise, right? It was like we all come from our own backgrounds. We all have our own gifts. We all reach a certain type of clients who we resonate with, and we are there to bring this information and this to them. So that's kind of a little bit of my background. My previous life in this body, I was a corporate IT person. So I lived in the corporate world and I loved the IT part. I did not love the corporate part. And so that jump 20 years ago was one of those things like, well, let's see if it works. And it has. So that's a little bit about me, Bill.
That's fantastic. Thank you, LuAnn. And so I'm very excited about the topic that you're going to be sharing with us today, which is forest bathing or forest therapy. And it's one of those kind of practices or kind of methods that has just really started the past few years to become part of the mainstream. But I still think there are a lot of people who don't know what it is or know how helpful it can be. So can you tell us a little bit about what it is and how you got involved and why it's one of your passions?
Sure. Well, let's say that I was I was doing a forest bathing or forest therapy practice before I ever knew that it had a term or that people were studying it in Japan. Back actually when I worked in the corporate world, I had taken Qigong and Qigong certification and Tai Chi. And so at lunchtime, the place where I worked was set on 20 acres. And so I would go outside and be along the edge of the woods and I would do my Qigong practice and I would do my Tai Chi practice to kind of calm myself down, from the stresses. And people would see me out there and they'd say, hey, can we come do this with you? And I'm like, sure. So I was leading these little, at the time, that is a form of forest bathing, right? We were out, we were in nature, we were with the trees, we were focusing on our breath and our surroundings. I didn't know it had a name at that time. It was just, we were going out there and doing relaxation and breath work. So that was the beginning of it. And then with every certification program that I taught, whether it was interior alignment or soul coaching, part of what I did, because I live on 80 acres here in Western Pennsylvania, and I guess I am very blessed. I feel very blessed about that.
Mm.
But a part of it is we have nature here. And so there's times that we spend outside. And sometimes it's just times to go out and talk to a tree or touch a tree and see what the tree wants to tell you. And again, that's a piece of a forest therapy or forest-based bathing practice. And then, several years ago, I'm not even sure when, I kind of came across some of the science from Japan of how they were taking executives out into the woods to help manage their stress. And they called the practice Shinrin Yoku. And while we think that it's an ancient practice, it's not actually an ancient Japanese practice. They were actually looking for what can we do to help our executives not burn out. And so they looked at the ancient Shinto religion, which honored the fact that everything, every rock, every tree, every stream, every mountain was a being. And so by going out and being amongst these nature beings and honoring them in the sense that just not like worshiping them, but respecting them, right? You're a being, I'm a being, right? We're all beings. And just being in the woods with the quiet and listening to nature. So they had studied this. They took people out and they found it made great results, lowered people's blood pressure. It reduced, it impacted the variable heart rate. So what variable heart rate is your heart's ability to adapt to stressful or non-stressful situations. And so you would think, oh, your heart should beat the same amount all the time. But actually, no, you want your heart to be variable and only beat fast when it needs to. And so by being in the woods, it would allow people's variable heart rate to get back into a more normal kind of thing, that it only increased when it needed to. And it boosted all of the things in the bloodstream that were about boosting your immune system. And so what they found is that so many of our modern day diseases are based on inflammation. And that inflammation is a result of our immune system not working well. And so they were looking at, okay, we're reducing inflammation, boosting the immune system. We've impacted this variable heart rate, and we're lowering blood pressure on these guys. And so something about this is working. So then they analyzed it, and they were like, well, is it the colors that are around in nature? And yeah, they found that color was a big, and the way they found it is they put people in rooms and they would put green colors on the screen, and then they would put gray colors like city buildings on the screen. And so they put brown colors and they put black colors. So they would measure, like when you're in an office environment versus when you're in a nature environment, and they would measure all of these different things. And they go, wow, when they're around the nature colors, they relax. So then they work with the images, the shapes of trees versus the shapes of buildings. The shapes made a difference even when they were in black and white. Then they started measuring the effects of sunlight and what sunlight does to us as we do our own little photosynthesis. And then the air we're breathing, it's more oxygenated, it's less polluted, and we're also breathing in what the trees off gas. And trees have their own language. They talk to each other, okay? And they talk to each other not just through the root system. That's kind of a slow method of communication. They talk to each other through the scent that they release into the air. And so when they are dealing with a certain kind of mold or a bug or something like that, they will release a scent in the air. And human beings, we have evolved in this in hundreds of thousands of years. And when we would breathe this in ancient times, it helped us boost our immune system for these molds and these bugs too. So that's all a part of it. And then another piece to it that they looked at is this concept of earthing. And earthing is a little different than grounding. Like a lot of times in our practices, we will talk about being grounded, right? And we'll think about energetically connecting down into the earth. And that's powerful. But what earthing is physically touching the ground, because there is a teeny tiny electromagnetic current that runs through the earth. And NASA discovered it. NASA discovered it because when they put people up in the different long-term shuttles and space stations, and they would get weak and their immune systems would get really low. And they're like, well, that's the problem. Is it exercise? What is it? Well, they found we need to be plugged into this current on the ground. And the sad thing is, if you think about it, ever since we started building our really nice houses with not dirt floors, okay, and ever since we started wearing rubber-soled shoes, which are oh so comfortable and last for a long time, we don't connect to the earth anymore. And so when people go out and they actually stand barefoot, or they're actually touching a tree, they are plugging into that current. And that current is a huge component in lowering the inflammation within the body. If you've ever heard of dark field microscopy, where they actually take a little sample of your blood, and and the cells are all alive at this point, and they look at it in this certain microscope, and they see how the cells interact. And when we're around a lot of electronics, a lot of positive ionization, we haven't earthed, okay? Our blood cells tend to all clump up. And then when they get clumped up, it increases blood pressure, because it's really hard to push all those clumped up blood cells through our veins. But when we earth, what happens is all those little cells separate from each other. And it's a much healthier way for our blood to be. So that's a component. So as they studied these various different components, I started thinking about how so many people in other things I started reading about forest therapy would just say, oh yeah, I'm going out and taking a 4-hour hike in the woods. And that's not, it's great. That's great to be in the woods, but that's not the true components that make the forest therapy work. Part of it is sitting, right? Just sitting and being. When they took these executives out to study, it wasn't about let's take a race to the top of the mountain and back. It was, there were different spots that they had to stop and sit, and they might have something they have to contemplate at that particular spot. And so a powerful forest therapy session isn't about how far you go. In fact, it's about how conscious you are in every step, in noticing what's around you and acknowledging what's around you. So those are those secret components to forest therapy. And so when I was learning about that, I was like, you know, there are different forest therapy certification programs out there, and they're awesome. You know, Amos Clifford is probably the founder of the biggest school in the United States on this. But a lot of their programs focus on more deep woods experiences, right? Taking people out for a weekend, because they found if people could be out for a weekend, those results would stay within their system for up to 2 weeks, which is cool. Okay. But my thought is, how many people in their busy lives spare a weekend? It doesn't happen, right? And from everything I was reading, there was ways to put this together in an hour and a half, which a person can fit more easily into their schedule than having to go away for a weekend. So I thought, let me create a program that has a recipe, right? Kind of a recipe for how to get the best results in the shortest amount of time. And that isn't to say, go spend a whole day out in nature. That's awesome. But I wanted to make it accessible. I wanted to make it doable, because if you say it's going to take a really long time, people don't do it.
Right.
The other thing I wanted to do is make it accessible for people who don't go out into the woods, right? People with disabilities, people who have a fear of being out to the woods, because they need this benefit as well. The place where I worked was a rehabilitation hospital back in the corporate world, was a rehabilitation hospital for people with spinal cord injuries, head injuries. And, they're in wheelchairs. They don't easily go out onto a trail,
Mhm.
but there had to be a way for them to have this benefit. And I thought back to those days, because I had patients come out and do my thing out next to the tree line too. And they were breathing the air. They were
Mhm.
focusing in on a tree or a certain branch or the shape of a leaf, right? They were doing all those components, and yet they were only 10 yards away from the building.
Mhm.
So I thought, we absolutely can do this in our backyards. We don't have to
Mhm.
be out in the woods. We just need a component of nature.
Mhm.
So that's another piece to my program. And then maybe one of the most important pieces I feel is I want everybody to be an ambassador for nature.
Oh, I love that. Mhm.
That if we don't speak up for nature, if we don't speak up for the trees and the animals and the rocks and the mountains and the streams, who is going to do it?
Mhm.
And so being that ambassador to help people understand that these are not resources here for us to use. And that's why I don't even like to say we're going to use forest therapy to heal us. No, we are going to enter into nature
Mhm.
just like we go visit a friend in their home. We do it with respect, we do it with honor.
Mhm.
We don't expect them to be healing us, right?
Mm.
But it's just natural that when we are out in their presence, we all used to be a community together, and it is very healing.
Mhm.
So this ambassador piece is like walk the talk, right?
Mhm.
Figure out what you do that can inspire others, whether it's recycle or upscale old furniture, or do walks where you pick up litter and you invite other people to come along. So all of those things are what an ambassador might do. So
Mhm.
that's what I created. And so
Well, that sounds fantastic and beautiful, and I love the idea of being ambassadors to nature. I know, for instance, so I go kayaking, and when I see garbage in the river, I paddle on over and I throw it in my kayak. It just feels like it's fixing something that went wrong, if you will, right?
mhm,
So yeah, that's fantastic, and sounds like a beautiful kind of way to approach life, really. But so as we think about kind of the certifications that you have and the teaching that you do around there, how do you incorporate forest therapy into the soul coaching or into the feng shui and the space clearing? How have you been able to kind of integrate those in different ways?
well, for those people who have taken soul coaching certification, a big piece of that is called the quest at the end of the 28 days. And what a quest is going into nature and
Mhm.
sitting and being open to hearing signs, symbols, messages that come in the form of animals or the clouds or the sounds or the scent or the way the wind blows. All of that is truly what a powerful forest therapy practice is about. It's not always about I'm going out to find out what I should decide to do at work tomorrow, but it is about being very present to what's going on around us as opposed to what's going on in here.
Mhm.
So that piece is sort of automatically a piece to that. And a lot of times with my soul coaching classes, I will show them a little bit of Qigong breath work or of Qigong warm up kind of things, just to allow their
Mhm.
energy to be moving and flowing. With interior alignment and space clearing, we use the power of nature to clear our energy, right?
Mhm.
So, one of the things I teach people is that when they're going to be coming out of a client's home and
Mhm.
maybe they feel like they have some energy stuck on them from their client's home, whether it's a
Mhm.
feng shui consultation or a space clearing. One of the most powerful things we can do is go to a park, spend 15 minutes, touch a tree, right? When we
Mhm.
touch a tree, we're plugging into the earth. Go barefoot, stand there, maybe spray yourself with some water, right?
Mhm.
Um, because all of that is about clearing energy. When you plug into nature, it clears your auric field. It also boosts your auric field.
Mhm.
So those things that we teach in interior alignment for that clearing of ourselves after a client, it's all part of forest therapy.
Mhm. Well, that makes so much sense, right? It just seems like they all kind of fit so well together. So I'm just looking at our time. We've got about 10 minutes left. Wanted to just ask a couple of questions, but the first being, you found this as a passion, and you talked about how, 20 years ago that you kind of became passionate about Denise's work and kind of what she teaches. What advice would you have for other members of the LuAnn Academy on how they can kind of tap into their passion, or how they can kind of find their passion, or find a way to follow it or incorporate it into their daily life?
I would say sometimes it's hard to know what you're even passionate about, right? When you are so in the grind of what it is you have to do, you can't sometimes even remember what you were passionate about or what would give you that kind of excitement or joy. And so what I would encourage people to think of is, when you were a child, what kinds of things did you like to do when you played, right? And one of the things I love to do is I like to go out into the woods, and I would imagine there were fairies and unicorns, and I had fun out in the woods. Now, I was very much a little girly girl. Like, I was not a mud pie maker. My sister was, but I loved being next to the trees. I loved climbing a tree and sitting in a tree. And so that resonance with nature was always a part of who I am. And then the other piece to it is I'm also a helper, right? I love when I can help people in some way. And so putting together, the power of nature and how to help people, that was this passion. And I realized that I had been connecting those two things all along. And that's why I was like, no, let's make it official. Let's do something on a more official scale with this. So for other people out there listening, it's like, think about, what are your hobbies? Think about what brings you joy. And then, is there a way to connect the dots on that? Because when you incorporate all those skills, like if you're somebody who loves to make pottery and you're an interior alignment practitioner, then maybe you are thinking about how to create pottery that would represent different elements, or how to create pottery that would hold different intentions that would be in the client's home, right? It becomes an offshoot. So there's whatever it is that you love to do, think of how those two worlds mesh and blend. And I'm guaranteeing it does in some way.
Yeah, that's great. And apologies, we have a visitor. This is my cat Bernie, for those who saw the tail. But that's fantastic. So let's just see if there's some questions in the group. If not, I have a couple of my own. Maria's saying how she loves the certification she took with you. So that's fantastic. Okay. So we'll wait to see if any of the questions come in. But I had a couple that came up as you were talking. And the first is really about intention. Because intention is so important in the work that we do, that Denise has kind of really focused on that as kind of a key part of all of our work. And you talked a little bit about being present in forest therapy. And so I'm curious, is intention something that you establish up front, or is it a matter of being present? Is it incorporated in some way in the forest therapy that you do?
Absolutely. So once I was researching forest therapy, and I started putting together this compact practice, I started leading some forest therapy, not certification, just experiences here at my location. And of course, at the beginning, I called it forest bathing. I was like, we're going to be doing forest bathing on Saturday morning. And local people were like, oh, I would come, but I don't want to get naked. And I'm like, no nakedness is required. Please, no nakedness. And so that's why I call it forest therapy a lot. But yeah, you have to set the expectations for people. And, some people are thinking like, setting expectations means telling them how difficult the terrain might be, right? Because I had a lot of people coming who were also clients, patients of my husband. And so people with MS, people in wheelchairs, and I wanted them to be able to enjoy it. So, I would say we're going to be on flat level ground. We aren't going to be traveling more than 100 feet.
Mm-hmm.
If you have allergies to bees, you want to bring your EpiPen. Not that we're going to run into, but we're just going to be safe, right? So we set those expectations. And then when they're here, there's further expectations, like you're going to turn your cell phone off. We are not going to be out there journaling. You are going to be out there just observing. And so that setting of intention, and then very much step by step of the process, I'm leading people through, choose a tree, whatever tree calls to you. And then I want you to have a silent conversation with this tree. And I give them some ideas of what that conversation can be about. And then they have 10 minutes to spend with that tree. Now, what they end up doing in their own mind, because I've had people show up that say, I'm only here because my wife wanted to come. And so I don't believe any of this stuff. And I'm like, cool,
Sure.
that's awesome. So just play along. But then I've had them tell me afterwards that it was one of the most relaxing experiences they have. And not that they believe that trees have their own little being, but it was fun imagining it. So the intention of having people just step into this realm like it's magical.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. I love that. And then the other question, just making sure I don't want to monopolize. Let me just see if anyone else has questions. The other question that I had was, you talked about the energy that we want to stay connected to in the earth, right? And so is that the same as the Schumann wave? That is the energy around the earth? Okay, I thought so, but I just wanted to confirm. So.
Yeah, and sometimes you'll also hear it referred to as Hartmann lines, and there's areas where it's a little bit stronger. And it's very tiny, but it's very important. Like it's a very tiny wavelength. And so, and I've had people over the course of these years of doing this come to forest therapy, and they're like, oh, I like the earthing part. So if I dig up a bunch of dirt and put it in a cardboard box and take that in my living room and put my bare feet on it, does that work? And it's like, sorry, the answer is no. Okay, it's not the dirt. Oh, that's good stuff too.
Yes.
But we actually have to be touching the earth. And so some people don't like bare feet on the ground, and that's okay. Because if you touch a plant, its roots are down deep into the earth. So touching a plant, touching a tree are all ways to get that same connection. And if we think about how electricity travels through water very easily, if you want to increase that connection, if you make your hands wet and then you hold a leaf in your hand of the tree, okay, the leaf has a lot of moisture in it as well. And so it's actually kind of a stronger connection than touching the bark because there's not as much moisture in the bark.
Oh, that's a great tip. I really love that. Oh, fantastic. All right. I think that is we're almost at the end of the time. I didn't see any other questions. Did you see any, LuAnn? I just want to make sure I'm not missing
I don't
anything.
see any other questions.
Okay.
And
I'm
just
that's
delighted
fine.
with the gals that are here. It's like
Yes,
gals.
absolutely. And the great thing about this is that this will be on the site and people will be asking questions. They can ask questions afterward too in the comments. So please do, if you're watching this later, feel free to throw in some questions at the bottom, and LuAnn will certainly be able to kind of get back to you on that. But I guess one final thing, LuAnn. So if people are interested in learning more from you about forest therapy or other services you have, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Best way, of course, you can reach out to me on Facebook, but you can also go to my website, innerharmonyschool.com, and you can find information on feng shui, interior alignment certification, forest therapy certification, soul coaching certification. I also have another little group. It's called Enchanted Living.
That's right.
And it's a group that meets every Monday night live on Zoom. But we study different things and we have a lot of fun. And sometimes we have guest speakers too. And so, if you like that more live connection, that might be something that you're interested in too.
Great. Well, thank you, LuAnn, so much. Very informative. Loved everything you kind of shared today. And of course, the way that you do it is just fantastic. So thank you for being our very first Follow Our Passions interview. And so more to come for the community. You'll see that there's the next one coming up is Patty Allen. That she's doing one on dreams. That's next week. We have another one then Scott Anderson the week after that. He's going to do on space clearing. And so more to come as well. So thanks everybody for joining us. Please ask questions. Please follow your passions, follow your heart, because that's what makes the world go round. So thanks everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks, LuAnn.